What's going on? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. You're listening to King Cam Ujumbe Podcast. Ujumbe means message, and daylight savings time got us messed up. Man, I'm trying to get my timing together and everything, but yeah, we're about to get into it. I'm very excited. Thank you. Don't forget to like and comment. If you're enjoying the information, subscribe. But yeah, we're going to talk about the lost kingdoms of Faiyum, ancient Egypt's hidden power struggles, and forgotten rulers. Yes, we have a origin story. And yeah, guess what I decided to do? As you can tell, I got my little slides up and everything. So now you can see what we're doing live. And I really appreciate you guys coming through and everything. So shout out to the fam, shout out to alumni and whatnot. But let's get to the business. Now, we are in Queen of the South series. We're in the Queen of the South series, and we just started, and I'm very excited about it. And the book that we're using is the first female pharaoh, Sobekneferu. It's already getting interesting, okay, to say the least. It is getting interesting, and I am reading it along with you. It's like 34 chapters, but broken up into 8 parts. And so I challenge you guys to read that information and add value to the discussion. But I'm really thankful that you guys are here. And now, what we're going to talk about? We're going to talk about the ancient people of the Faiyum, the capital of the Faiyum, and concepts of the Faiyum, and much more. And hopefully we'll be able to answer some questions too, because the fam always asks questions. I'm more than glad to answer them. And thank you guys for coming. So the ancient people of the Faiyum. Now, the Faiyum area is located in the heart of ancient Egypt. It holds a crucial place in the historical and cultural development of ancient Egyptian civilization. See? And so this fertile area, nourished by the Bahur, Yusuf Canal branching from the Nile, has been home to human settlement for thousands of years. And archaeological evidence suggests that early inhabitants thrived in the region due to its rich resources. So the Faiyum is basically a branch off of the Nile River. And get this, at one point in time, there was a Yellow Nile. Which goes all the way out to westward towards Chad. And so it's pretty interesting, but that dried up thousands of years ago. But now, where is the Faiyum region? Where is that? I'm going to tell you, it is north. If I can expand this a little bit more. All right, Lower Egypt is up here. Of course, Upper Egypt is down there. But now, check this out. When you look at it, all right, when you look at it, the Faiyum is right up here. Okay, the Faiyum is up there, and Memphis is very close to it. It is next door to it. So it's very interesting to know that these places were right next to each other, and they had to trade. They had to work together. So let's go. Now, the Faiyum in the Medu Neter. Okay, the original Egyptian name for the Faiyum is Shedet. Okay, Shedet. All right, that is a city, and Faiyum is the location or region. So the interesting part about it is that when you see these the Medu Neter, when you see a place or a location like a city, you will see a circle with an X on the inside of it. That means that is an actual location. That is an actual place, Shedet. Okay, and Faiyum is the region. So I'm trying to see this because I have a different setting here. So the Faiyum is actually called Payum, P-A-Yum, the in the Medu Neter, meaning the lake. It simply means the lake. All right. So Shedet is the capital city. Faiyum is the region. All right. And so now the Faiyum region is located in the heart of Egypt, holds a crucial place for the historical and cultural development and of ancient Egyptian civilization. The fertile area nourished by the Bahir Yusuf Canal, branching from the Nile, and I think I already mentioned this, but it's important for agriculture, fishing, and trade. All right. So the earliest known human presence in Faiyum dates back to the Neolithic period around 5500 before Common Era or BCE. Okay, with the Faiyum a culture being one of the first developed farming societies. So the early settlers developed innovative agricultural techniques, including the use of irrigation systems and controlled water flow from the Nile. So they cultivated grains such as barley and emmer wheat, supplemented by hunting and fishing in Lake Morris. Now, here's the thing. Lake Morris, that is a Greco-Roman name. So I don't know how the Europeans are able to slide their names like Lake Victoria or Lake Morris into an African place. You know, I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't understand. So, but you know, like I don't understand it. How can you put yourself into another place? But that's the way they do it. Now, so Lake Morris, which was once a vast body of water, pottery and basket weaving were the prominent crafts, including a structured and self-sustaining society. All right. Now, and as Egyptian civilization advanced, Faiyum became increasingly integrated into the greater political and economic framework of ancient Egypt during the Old Kingdom. That, you know, the dates kind of differ. It really depends on who's doing the talking. I'm going to expand this a little bit. It really depends on who's doing the talking. So, but on most records, it is 2686 to 2181, and the region is utilized as an agricultural hub, supplying food to the central authorities in Memphis and beyond. So, and by the Middle Kingdom, the Faiyum saw a rise in urbanization. What is urbanization? Urbanization is when you're leaving a country or rural area and you're moving from there to the city. That is urbanization. Okay. So that, you know, when people like during the Great Migration, during the Reconstruction period, you had that where people would leave the South and go to the North. They would leave the South to go to Chicago, or they go to New York or places like that. So don't forget to hit the like button. But now, so that's urbanization. That is urbanization in a nutshell. With settlements expanding, trade, and flourishing. The region's strategic location facilitated interaction with neighboring regions, influencing its culture and economy. See, the culture in Kemet was African. Okay, the culture in Kemet was African. So what happened is they intertwined and interacted with other Africans in and around that area. Okay, so there was a blend of African people in one place, like New York or like Houston and places like that. All right. So now, before I get to that, next part, the development of towns and religious centers in Faiyum played a significant role in its historical importance. The city, known as Shedet, emerged as a major center dedicated to the worship of Sobek, the crocodile deity, or Neteru. All right. The economic prosperity of the region was further supported by advancement in hydraulic engineering, including canal systems that improved irrigation and facilitated transportation. Over time, Faiyum became a microcosm of Egyptian society, reflecting the broader cultural, religious, and technological advancements and developments that shaped the civilization. So these people were civilized. So when people think of Africa, they always give it a negative concept, thinking that, okay, these people were cave dwellers and they knew nothing about civilization till Rome came. That is a lie. Okay. So these people already had an hydraulic engineering, and canal system in place. Why? So they can farm, so they can grow things. So, but if you're enjoying the video, listen, learn, and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the like button, and we're going to continue. We're going to keep it moving. Now, the capital of Faiyum. Now, in this capital, remember, we're talking about a region, Faiyum, and then Shedet, right? The capital. Now, Shedet, and later called Shedet el-Fayum, served as the capital of the Faiyum region. Okay, as the administrative and religious center, it played a pivotal role in governing the local population and managing the region's economic resources. The city was particularly renowned for its temple dedicated to Sobek, which housed sacred crocodiles believed to be living manifestations of the deity. I'll tell you what, I would not be nowhere near that place. That I will not be anywhere close where them crocodiles are. I'm not gonna be fooling with the crocodiles and the wild animals running loose in that area. I'm not doing that. You get somebody else to do it. So that's what their major deity was, Sobek. Okay. Now, then we have Memphis or Men-Nefer. Okay. That is the relationship between Shedet and Memphis, the capital of Lower Egypt during the Old Period. The Old Kingdom was essential for the integration of Faiyum into the broader Egyptian state. Okay, so we have to understand that Shedet, Faiyum, was right next door to Memphis. Okay, they was really closely related, and they interacted more with each other than they did with Waset or Thebes. Okay, but let's get into it. Okay, Memphis in the Medu Neter. Okay, now the Old Kingdom. Okay, it was called Jed Saut. All right, it's called Jed Saut, and now that means everlasting places. Right, that means everlasting places. So when you see that pillar with the little lines, that means it is established. That is strong. That's a strong place. Okay, so Jed. Okay, and then Saut. All right. So now when you see that again, when you see that circle with the X, that means that is a city or a place. So it's called established or everlasting place. Now in the Middle Kingdom, they called it the Anktawi. Okay, the Anktawi. All right. So we see Ta, which is land, but Tawi means multiple, two lands, right? Tawi. So we have the Ankh there, which represents the symbol of life, and we have the little line with three dots that means land. Okay, so so they used to call Memphis Jed Saut, everlasting places, or Anktawi, the place where the two lands live. Why is that? The place where two lands live. They're basically trying to indicate something. They're trying to indicate that Memphis is the conjuncture between Upper and Lower Egypt. What do you think? Comment below. Is Memphis the uniting factor of Upper and Lower Egypt? All right. Now, but I heard some other names too. Men-Nefer, okay, Men-Nefer, the enduring beautiful. So when you hear the word Nefer, like when you hear the names Nefertari, okay, Nefer means beautiful, men, enduring and beautiful, right? And then Het Ka Ptah, okay, Het, which is the house, Ka, the soul, Ptah. That means that basically means creation, okay? The creation. So whenever you see that little square box there with empty space, there's somebody in it or something in it, that means a house, okay? Like Het Heru, okay? That is a house or a place where Heru is. So dealing with Memphis, okay? Het Ka Ptah, okay? The place of creation, the place of rebirth, the change. You have to be a place of creation and rebirth. Everybody, whenever people encounter you, you gotta be that great place for them. You gotta be that safe place for them. What's going on? None of your business. Greetings. Okay, what's going on? All right. So you gotta be a brave and safe place. Whenever my students come to my class, even though as mean as I am, they enjoy being there because it's a welcoming place. Are you welcoming to people? Are you that place for them? Okay. All right. Let's go. I digress. All right. Don't forget to hit the like button. Now, so Memphis as a state, political and economic heart of the kingdom, relied on the Faiyum's agricultural surplus. So Memphis needed the Faiyum people just as much as everybody else. So a lot of people would like to say, okay, Memphis is standalone. They're good. No, they needed the agriculture. They needed that farmland. They needed those resources. And so there is a relationship there. So it's a political economic heart of the kingdom, relying on Faiyum's agricultural surplus to sustain its population. Okay. Everybody like to eat. Okay. So they had to sustain the population and military. So in return, Shedet received royal patronage, including investments in infrastructure and religious institutions. So it was a relationship of give and take. Okay, so Memphis needed Shedet, Shedet needed Memphis. Okay, all right. So now, during the Middle Kingdom, particularly under the reigns of Amen and Hat, Amen M Hat or Amun in front, okay, and Sobekneferu, Shedet flourished as a vital administrative center closely linked to the royal court in Memphis. So the Pharaoh strengthened ties between the two cities by appointing officials who oversaw taxation, the money. They oversaw the money, the irrigation projects, and military operations in Faiyum. So to keep everybody happy, because the thing is, it wasn't Hotep all the time, because people are going to be people, right? So they had, the pharaohs had to play a little bit of politics. They had to play the game a little bit. They had to shake some people's hands and things like that. Because in a minute, we're going to talk about some folk that threw hands in that area that was not happy. All right. So additionally, the construction of canals and reservoirs, such as the famous Lake Morris Reservoir, further solidified the region's importance in the national economy. So they needed the Faiyum region. They needed those things. Okay. So let's continue. Now, the capital of the Faiyum religiously, the priests of Sobek in Shedet held considerable influence, often interacting with the priesthood of Ptah in Memphis. So remember, every major nome or major region had a major deity. Okay, Waset or Thebes, Thebes, was Amun, right? Memphis was Ptah, and Faiyum was Sobek. Okay, so religiously, they did interact with them, and so this religious connection reinforced the city's significance within the Egyptian pantheon. And Sobek was not only a regional deity, but also associated with pharaonic power and military strength. Okay, because this was during the time when, like, Queen Sobek and people after her had that name and title Sobek behind it. All right, it associated itself with power and strength. Then pharaohs who aligned themselves with Sobek's cult sought to legitimize the rule by emphasizing their divine connection to the god of fertility, protection, and might. Okay, so whenever you hear a king that, because we talked about the names, because names are important, right? Whenever you hear a king add something in addition to his name, okay, like Amun or like Akhenaten, when he changed his name from Amenhotep IV to Akhenaten, they're trying to align themselves with whatever Neteru is popular. All right, so that's what that is. But I digress. Let's go. All right, now the priests of Sobek wielded immense power. Okay, because they ran it. They ran that area, right? They ruled with immense power, controlling the vast temple estates, and that included agricultural lands, workshops, and trade networks. They had the land, the resources, and the information. Do we understand? These priests in this area had a trifecta going on. Okay, they had the land, the resources, and the information. Okay, they had the books, they had the scrolls, they had the scribes that actually wrote the paperwork. So they oversaw temple rituals, managed the breeding of sacred crocodiles, and interpreted religious omens that influenced royal and administrative decisions. But now I got a question. If they had that ability, if the priest had that ability to be able to interpret certain rules and regulations and paperwork, do you think these priests was going to finesse? Comment below. Just let me know. Do you think these priests was, now that they have all this information, the money and all this power, do you think that they kind of would tilt the scales in their favor a little bit? All right. What do y'all think? All right, let's go. Now, so additionally, the priests served as intermediaries between the ruling elite and the common people, reinforcing the divine authority of the Pharaoh while securing economic. Yeah, I think so too. Thank you, none of your business. Yeah, I think so too. They went on and said, look here, hey, we need this money over here. We need some more of Pharaoh's resources over here. So we're gonna have this omen. We're gonna say these words, and if it rains at 12 o'clock today, Sobek is with us, and we're gonna get that. We're gonna get that endorsement. Yeah, I think so. So additionally, the priests served as intermediaries between the people and the elite. And here it is, while securing economic and political privileges for themselves. So yeah, they got a kickback. They got a little money for it. They got a little something on the top. They got at least 5%. They got a little something, right? So yeah, this is what was happening, and this was what was going on there. All right, now get this, dealing with influence and information. There is, at that time, I learned something new while I'm studying this. They had, of course, the pyramid text. Okay, that's the old kingdom. They had the pyramid text, and they had the coffin text. That is the middle kingdom, right? They had the coffin text, pyramid text, coffin text, and the book of Common for by day, of course, popularly spoken of as the book of the dead. But they had the book of gates, which is the new kingdom, the book of gates. But get this, y'all. Get this. Did you know that there's an ancient Kemetic book called the Book of Faiyum? That's the reason why them boys had so much power over there. They had enough. They had their own book. They had their own book, the Book of Faiyum. I just found this out, y'all. I didn't look. I'm learning something new every day. Thank you guys for allowing me for this opportunity to tell you this origin story, because I did not know that. The Book of Faiyum. So now I got a question though. Should we discuss this book? Like and comment below. Should we crack this book open and see what they talking about? You didn't know either, huh? I didn't know. I did not know. This is different. Okay, this probably is a reason why. This is a reason why they act the way they act, and this is probably the reason why Queen Sobekneferu was the way she was. Remember, this is where she's from. Okay, this is where she's from. We're talking about the origin story. So the Faiyum area, right? The Faiyum region, Shedet, is where her people are from. Okay, so if they got down differently than the people in Memphis or Thebes, it is what it is. So yeah, we're going to be learning why she is the way she is, why her father was a certain way, why her brother was a certain way, right? All right, so now, so this, like I said, this also further explains why this further explains why the Sobek priest was into it with the priest of Amun. Did y'all know? Did y'all know that them priests got a little different when they was around each other? I'm telling you, it was not Hotep all the time. It was not like that. They said, look, bro, you can't tell us all what to do. You can't tell us how to do things or how to handle our business. Okay, because we've heard about the priests of Amun. Them boys, they got gangster. All right. So the Sobek priests, because they had their own book and their own information, they said, no, our book says something different. Okay, so we're going to handle it like this. What the Pharaoh said, the Pharaoh ain't here right now. What you going to say? right? Now, the priests of Sobek, like I said, wielded immense power. And so the interaction between Shedet and Memphis ensured that Faiyum remained key province under centralized control, contributing to Egypt's political stability and economic prosperity. Okay, even as later dynasties emerged, the legacy of Shedet as a religious and agricultural powerhouse endured, leaving an indelible mark, okay, on Egyptian history. Indelible mark on Egyptian history. Now, there are some conflicts. Look, if there is some money involved, okay, if there's some money involved, and if there's some land involved, there's going to be a conflict. There's going to be a conflict, all right? So there's conflicts in the Faiyum region, okay? Despite its prosperity, Faiyum was not immune to conflicts, both internal and external. These conflicts often arose due to struggles over resources, political power, and religious influences, right? And so, but the issue was there was some nomes there, okay? And the division of the ancient Egyptian kingdom was broken into nomes, okay? And there's over 30, I think Brother Mo, he can correct me on this, but there's about over 30 nomes in Upper and Lower Egypt total, okay? And nomarchs, yeah. It's always a conflict when somebody seeks to gain something. I agree. It's always somebody wants a little extra, they're going to do the most. Unfortunately, even here. You see, the thing is, we tend to romanticize Kemet, right? We tend to romanticize ancient Egypt or even other parts of the ancient world, and not realize that these were real people with real problems. Okay, and it got a little bit of political, and they got their hands dirty, right? All right, so nomarchs were basically nobles and governors, right? So they were the nobles, they the ones that did a lot of things. So they governed the provinces or nomes of ancient Egypt. They handled taxes, resources. They were at the same level, the nomarchs, y'all. The nomarchs were at the same level as the scribes. Okay. But guess what happened? Okay. Guess what happened? If before we go further, guess what happened? If you are at the same level as the scribe, the people that handle the paperwork, if you were at the same level as the people that handle the legal paper, speaking of that, this book here, The Ancient Records of Egypt, Volume 1 by James Henry Breasted, that's a good book. This deals with laws, deeds, and things that were happening in Egypt. Okay? These were legal documents, basically, as to where the land would go, if the landowner died, that kind of thing. This is really good. So, but what do you think happened if the governor is at the same level as basically an accountant? It's going to be friction. It's going to be some issues, right? So now, and so by the way, just really quick before we move on, by the way, the nomarch at the very top is Amen Imhat. That's a monarch, and he was the governor or the nomarch. This is very top. It's in black and white. If you've seen it right here. Okay, it is. He's the governor or mayor, if you want to say that, of the 16th nome, and Haram Hab is the scribe. Okay, guess who he's the scribe for? Okay, he's sitting there writing the information, writing the notes, and all the things. He is the scribe for King Tutankhamun. So I got a question. The fam have a question. Who was the real mother of King Tut? The fam asked it. They asked that question. They asked this last week. Okay, in our previous video on the forgotten pharaoh of ancient Egypt, the people want to know who was the real mother of King Tut. So guess what we finna do? It's coming soon. DNA, dynasties, and deception. Yep. The hunt for the true mother of King Tut. That's coming soon. That's gonna be towards the end. So we're gonna mess around and find out who was King Tut's mama. So, this get real interesting. There's some things I learned. There's some things I learned while studying. I love Egypt. I love African history, but it gets real sticky in Kemet. They get down different. Folk arranged marriages, folk getting assassinated, folk come up missing, all kind of stuff. All right, so we're gonna find out who his mama was, who his people. Right now, during the first intermediate period, this is like the Middle Kingdom, like we would say. Egypt experienced a breakdown of centralized power, leading to regional governors asserting control over their territories. Some nomarchs in Faiyum rebelled against weak rulers, challenging dominance of Memphis and Waset. Like none of your business said, it's always a conflict when someone seeks to gain something. Yeah, they rebelled. They didn't want to pay this money. They didn't want to do this, right? So some nomarchs in the Faiyum rebelled against weak rulers, challenging the dominance of Memphis and Thebes. They was trying to handle two major cities. They said, bro, y'all can't run without us. Where's the Pharaoh at? You know, because this was during the time, in the intermediate period, where these pharaohs weren't living that long and they weren't lasting that long, right? So these conflicts disrupted trade and administration, leading to instability until reunification in the Middle Kingdom. And so it gets really interesting to see that there's the old kingdom where everybody was solid. Then there's a small breakup, and then boom, the 18th dynasty. It's interesting, but we gotta tell it all, right? So some nomarchs in Faiyum, particularly those controlling key agricultural centers, they had the money and the land. So you can't get nothing to eat without us. Think about that. If you wanted to control, now I'm thinking about it. If you wanted to control a certain group of people in a certain area, you would control their food. So these nomarchs sought to maintain autonomy by refusing to tribute to the central authority, basically paying tribute or paying money or putting so many pounds of wheat and corn into this central location. This led to military campaigns to subdue rebellious provinces. So the Pharaoh had to bring in the army. They had to do a kick though. So they forcing the ruling pharaohs to negotiate or deploy troops to reclaim lost territories. Egypt was imploding. Egypt was falling apart. And over time, the power of the nomarchs were curbed, and the Middle Kingdom rulers reestablished stronger authority. Okay, they had to do a reset. As a matter of fact, there's been times where if the king didn't do a hard reset towards the Greco-Roman period, right towards the end, the ancient priests tried to do a reset, but it was kind of too late. By then, we have Europe and everybody else and their mama coming into the Nile Valley. All right. Now the question is, we basically answered this question: what happens when pharaohs and priests clash or collide? We answered that question in another video, but what happens when the priests get into it? What now? It was a lot of stuff happening in this area. The governors was trying to get their cut. And now the priests are trying to get their cut. But then not only trying to get their cut from the land or whatever, they try to flex and get into it with other priests. But before I get to that question, all right, I got a question. It's a serious question. Here it comes. I got a question. All right, now it be a superhero. Y'all got a comment below. Subscribe and comment below. If you be a superhero with a useless power, or a villain with a great power. Y'all tell me. Tell me the comment. Be a superhero with useless power or a villain with a great power. I'm not gonna say nothing. Y'all say something. Hero, and you can't do much. Yeah, none of your business. Said a villain with a great power. Yeah, you sure right. Yeah. I can't help nobody. I'm good and kind, but when that monster come out, I don't know. But yeah, I will. I ain't gonna lie to you. I will be that villain. I will do that. I will be that villain. All right, let's continue. Let's go. All right, so they did have religious power struggles, right? They did have religious power struggles in Kemet. Okay, so the dominance of Sobek's cult in Faiyum occasionally put it at odds with other religious factions, particularly the priesthood of Amun in Thebes. So during the rise of the New Kingdom, Thebes became a dominant religious center and conflicts emerged over temple wealth and influence, money and power. Wait a minute, hold on. Blue said she want to be a villain with great power too. See, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying you can't. Yeah, it's nice to be nice, but when somebody like Joker or somebody come or the Red Hulk or somebody, what you gonna do? Kill him with kindness? I don't know about that. Right? So during the rise of New Kingdom, Thebes became the dominant influence. So the conflicts emerged over temple wealth and influence, right? So everybody was putting money into the temples. Not only that, the pharaohs were also putting money into it, right? So at this time, during this era, pharaohs who favored Sobek, worshipped in Faiyum, often found themselves at odds with them Amun boys. Okay, yeah, which side you on kind of stuff. So it held significant power and wealth. This struggle was not just ideological, but also political, as religious institutions controlled vast economic resources. Yeah. So, and the thing is, some rulers try to play the game. Okay, they tried to balance these tensions or try to ease the tensions by constructing new temples or redistributing religious authority, while others face outright opposition from the Amun priest. So, but I'm gonna tell you this: we hearing about the Sobek priest and the Amun priest, but guess who was out the way? Then Priest of Ptah was not. They said, "Look, y'all got it, bro. We ain't gonna be going back and forth with y'all. We ain't got time for all that." So, oh man, the Priest of Ptah, they said, "Look, I don't care about none of that. Y'all do whatever it is y'all do, and we'll see y'all in a minute." Right? So they had those religious power struggles. Right now, there's some other conflicts in the Faiyum region, like the Hyksos invasion. Now, during the Second Intermediate Period, the Hyksos, a foreign dynasty that ruled parts of Egypt, posed a threat to Faiyum. Although the region remained under Egyptian control, there were military skirmishes as Hyksos explained that they basically expanded their influence. The Hyksos were some people from the east. They were from Canaan. They were from Phoenicia. They was out there. Okay, and they came and they invaded. And so the need for strong military defenses prompted increased fortifications around key settlements in Faiyum. Okay, now it wasn't until the 18th dynasty when I think correct me if I'm wrong, but Ahotep, okay, no, it was Queen Amos the first, King Amos the first. King Amos the first, he booted them out successfully. Okay, and then the 18th dynasty began, and he came from the south also, by the way. And so also those internal dynastic struggles, and then of course Rome and Greece and Rome came in, and in later periods Faiyum became a battleground for power struggles between the Ptolemaic rulers and local Egyptian factions resisting to foreign rule. We was going to get into it with each other, but bro, you're not from here. You're not even from this land here. Okay, you don't even speak our language. Okay, so the region witnessed revolts, particularly under the Greco-Roman kings who struggled to maintain control over Egyptian religious institutions and economic resources. So there was some conflicts there. Now we have some key figures in key figures of Faiyum and their factions. Okay, we have some key individuals throughout its history. Faiyum was shaped by influential rulers, religious leaders, and powerful officials who played crucial roles in its development. Some key figures and their factions included Amenemhat III, Sobekneferu, the high priest, and the Nomarch. Okay, Amenemhat the third, one of the most significant pharaohs associated with Faiyum of the 12th dynasty. He invested heavily in developing the region's irrigation systems, making it one of Egypt's most fertile areas. He reinforced the worship of Sobek, even though his name says Amen Emhat, which basically means Amen Amun in front, or God in front. Okay, he established grand temples in Shedet. His faction comprised of high-ranking officials and priests dedicated to Sobek. So there was some conflict in interest because the priest of Amun saying, bro, your name has Amun in it, but you're doing this over here, right? And of course, Queen Sobekneferu was the last ruler of the 12th dynasty. She was the first confirmed female pharaoh of Egypt. Sobekneferu strengthened the divine association between the ruling elite and Sobek. She continued the religious and architectural projects initiated by her predecessors. Her faction included royal administrators, military leaders, and religious figures. Okay, so her ancestry is from this area, so she's definitely going to pay attention to that. She's definitely going to put more into that area. Of course, the high priest of Sobek, we mentioned it before about they had their own book. Okay, these are the religious leaders of Shedet, wielded significant power, acting as intermediaries between the people and the deity. These priests managed temple wealth, oversaw religious ceremonies, and the nomarchs. Of course, we talked about those issues that the nomarchs and the governors rebelled against everybody because they wanted money and power for themselves. Okay. All right. Now, the connection. Okay. Knowing this culture, we kind of can understand why Queen Sobekneferu moved the way she moved. Okay. In the Queens of the South series, we are going to go further into that. Okay. Because there were some things that was pretty interesting, even though she ruled like three and a half years. You know, there was some things that she did that triggered the next era. Okay, so Queen Sobekneferu was the first known female pharaoh of ancient Egypt. Okay, a lot of you guys picked Cleopatra. I think y'all was trying to make me mad. But she was the first female pharaoh confirmed. She had a strong ties to the Faiyum region because that's where her ancestors were from, particularly through the worship of Sobek. Okay, as a ruler who ascended to the throne after the death of her father, her brother. Okay, her brother ruled for 9 years. So Sobekneferu reinforced the prominence of Faiyum, religious and political significance. She actively promoted the cult of Sobek, aligning herself with the deity to legitimize her rule. So that was before we get into that. So her reign marked the continuation of Faiyum integration into the kingdom in Shedet, serving as key religious and administrative hub. Sobekneferu commissioned construction on projects in the region, including the temple expansions dedicated to Sobek, reinforcing her connection to the Faiyum people. By embracing the local religious tradition and infrastructure, she ensured the region remained a stronghold in Egyptian governance and power. So, though her rule was brief, her influence solidified the legacy of the Faiyum. But now, check this out. This was her name. Okay, this was her name. All right, this was her name. All right, so if you can see that her Horus name, okay, was Marit Ra. Okay, beloved of Ra. Whenever you hear the word Mary, That means beloved. Nepti name, Set Sekem Nebatawi. Okay, Nebatawi. We say this a lot. The daughter of the powerful one, mistress of the two lands, daughter of the powerful one. Okay, mistress of two lands. Golden Heru, Horus name. Okay, that is basically her official name, Jet Kau. Jet Kau, as you can see the little pillar there, Jet established of crowns. So that name established of crowns will say that, hey, she is by right the king and queen of Egypt. Okay. We're going to get into that. We're going to get into detail about that, about how people ascend into power in Egypt, be it marriage or otherwise. She was born as a ruler. You see what I'm saying? So she was established of crowns, throne name Sobek Kara. Sobek is the Ka of Ra, or the soul of Ra. Her birth name, the name that her mama gave her, Neferu Sobek Ra. Okay, the beauty of Sobek and Ra. So, and check this out. This is in the website Pharaoh.se. It's pretty cool. Okay, check that out. Check them out. All right, so it's really good, really interesting. Now, so like I said, it marked the continuation of the Faiyum integration, and she by embracing the local religious traditions and infrastructure, she ensured the region's governance during a period of transition. And so there we have it. So through her rule, even though it was brief, it was 3 years and some change, the history of the Faiyum region basically became a beacon. Okay, during this transitional period. Okay, the history of the Faiyum region from its early inhabitants of the reign of Sobekneferu highlights its importance in ancient Egypt. The interplay between environment, religion, and political authority and conflict shaped its development, leaving lasting legacy in the broader narrative of Egyptian civilization. And so, in the next coming weeks, we're going to get into more about Sobekneferu, and we're going to if you want to catch up, okay, with our playlist, don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out our new Queens of the South series, and we got a new video coming up, the Ascensions of the Queens of Egypt, that is coming out this week also. And guess what? I have an interview. I did have an interview with a wonderful author that's coming up, Miss Tierica Patterson. She talked to me about Dallas, Texas Black History Uncensored. That's coming out this week also. But join the King Cam Ujumbe fam. Join us, and we're going to learn together. And before we go, are there any questions or concerns? Any questions or concerns before I turn you loose? No? Okay, well, if there are no questions, listen to King Cam Ujumbe Podcast, the Ujumbe Means Message, and we talked about the lost kingdoms of the Faiyum, and I will talk to you later. All right.